All right, we are live. We have made it. It is a beautiful day. It's Thursday today, and I have the incredible Dr. Kathy Utzschneider with me today. Did I say it right? Your full last name?
You did.
Brilliant. I love it when I can get that right. Hello, if anybody is coming online, please let us know that you're here and give a big welcome to our incredible guest today. So what I'm going to do is actually just share a little bit about you, and then we'll dig in, because there's so much that we want to pack into a very short amount of time. So let me just say, first of all, you are a coach of coaches and of athletes, and you have been at Boston College professor of coaching, and you're the founder of a coaching practice, Move. And in this can I say decades of work and research?
Yeah.
Decades, like literally tons of work. What you've been doing, you've published a number of books, of which of one is behind you, but that I have really, like, you can see, like, I've got all the tabs in there, and I've read it and I've loved it and I've been inspired by it. You've also, and what we want to talk a little bit about today, is also a workbook that you have just released, and we'll talk about how people can get it. But it is called Move. It is motivate, organize, visualize, and execute.
Excel.
I'm just like, let's execute it by excelling. Excel and execute. I've added my own E. Oh, that's so funny. We're going to talk about what motivated this, but I just also want to just acknowledge your own success as an athlete, and in bringing athletes to, both, I think I can say recreational, but also bringing them at the highest level of sport in the age of, in the perimenopause, and certainly in the beyond. So we are well positioned to understand how some of this work comes to bear, and what you've been able to do. Is there anything else that I know that your bio is a lot longer, and I've just kind of condensed it. Is there anything else that you really want to share with people about yourself before we get into your motivation to create Move?
Simply, thank you very much. And I'm inspired by everyone who strives. I'm inspired by athletes and coaches. And I've been writing for National Masters News. And in addition to coaching, learning from those I coach, I've learned a lot from those I've interviewed, because I think I've written, I don't know what the number is, but more than 150, 160, 70 profiles of champion women. And articles about training. So I learn from other people, and I'll learn from you and others listening. So.
Oh, yeah. And I'm already going to talk about, we're going to go into the Move, the workbook, a little bit more today, but I do want to, I'm already going to just start putting in a plug. If you want to get the book, it's High Performance in Midlife and Beyond. What I'll just say this really quickly. What really struck me from reading the book, and the number of women that you profile, and to speak all these, interview and follow, and what is it that is what is behind and underneath and motivating, and so many other things that comes through this, is the wide variety and applications of how we do things, but also the consistent messages that are coming through, which you obviously get into and help us really see the threads there. But it was just like, wow, like, because you give us their training, you talk about what they actually do, like Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday. That was really, I think, purposeful. And I looked at it, I was just like, oh man, like, there's a lot of different ways to do this. And what was working for one athlete was, it was a different approach to others. So I think, again, finding your coming into this, and maybe this is the segue into what we're talking about today, is like looking at that whole athlete. So tell us, what motivated Move, and what motivated this body of work that you're doing?
What motivated it, and great question to start with, Tennille, was when I started Masters running, which was 1998 or so. There were few role models.
Mhm.
People said everything in masters has changed. That is, masters is now really over 30, 35, but it used to be over 40. And it's changed in that expectations 3 decades ago used to be, oh, you should be on your rocking chair. I remember one of the top runners in the country, a veterinarian, who was running, low 17s for a 5K in her early 40s. And she said, everyone thought, what are you doing? You should be on your rocking chair. And times have changed. And the reason I mention that story is that having hope, having role models, having knowledge inspires us to be our best, whether we're 25, 45, 80, 65, 85, whatever age. And what inspired me to start MOVE and what's behind the MOVE Goal Achievement Workbook is that physical goals need an experience of connection and relationship behind them. And athletes need to be understood at every level as whole people.
Yeah.
And I have 2 facts that support that motivation. The motivation to consider the whole person first, a consideration which is at the foundation of MOVE. And that is, one is anecdotal and the other is scientific for my doctoral dissertation. The anecdote is, in my 20s, I was playing a lot of tennis, which I'd played in college. And I was friends with many of the trainers. And I saw a pattern of the trainers saying, I don't know what happened to Kathy or to Neil or Martha or David. They just disappeared. And they didn't pull a hamstring, hurt a bicep. It turned out that it was always because there was something else going on in the person's life, whether it was a job stress, a move, a relationship problem, a family issue. It was something else. And those trainers didn't know the person, know all aspects of the person. That's anecdotal. The scientific fact is from my doctoral dissertation, which compared 53 women who were competing as in the Olympics or in the Olympic trials or at the top Division I schools when they were already training for them in their teens. 53 of those with 50 women who did not start running until after age 30. And I looked at the whole group of 103 of them, and I was comparing the difference between what motivated the early starters with the late starters, how good could they be, etc.
Yeah.
And across the board, the reason, the biggest threat to achieving the athletic goals, both groups said, was having a difficult time juggling too many responsibilities. It was the big picture. So MOVE is like the blueprint of a building, whereas most coaches I think of as being the electrician, the plumber, the painter. This is the big picture. And people these days, particularly, I think, in a time when we're connected technically in so many ways, but not in our souls in so many ways. Many people are lonely and they're seeking community. So MOVE is a community of people who believe that this goal achievement method, which starts with understanding the whole person and all their obligations, and then from that, figuring out the meaning of the goal, of the unique goal that each person sets, and the logistics of how that person can achieve the goals. So there's a close relationship between the coach and the athlete. And now there are many people who are getting certified, whether they're doctors or Division I coaches or Olympians or high school coaches. They've gotten certified in the method to create a community of learning together.
That's so amazing. I think what word that keeps on coming up to me is that we almost, it's like in the past, and maybe what you're speaking to is we had this, or maybe sometimes we still do, this idea of like compartmentalizing our life. And that's where we start to really struggle, because it's like, well, I'm going to stay focused on this, but we forget that the pressures will really come in. And there's another researcher that speaks about the perfect imperfect option. Like, how do we weave in our whole selves? I think it's so critical, and that we get to show up with authenticity in everywhere that we show up.
Right. And it requires, a lot of trust. You've got to find the right person. And I mean, I coach people all over the world, as I'm sure many of your people do, thanks to, believe it or not, Zoom. It is amazing the connection that people have. The other piece about learning about the whole person and their commitments, and from that defining the goal, is that one of my coaches says, MOVE helps us by its method of setting successive short-term goals to achieve a long-term goal. It helps us prevent time from drifting. We're so, time is going by.
Oh.
Athletes and coaches, they want to be their best, right? And they, without rushing through life, you want to have times to relax too. You're not going to go crazy, but you want to be able to say, I think I've got a good balance between the times in my life devoted to, career, friends, family, physical, community. I don't want to be rushed, but I don't want to let time drift. And everyone knows about SMART goals, but there's so many goal achievement methods that are brilliant in their concepts, but they don't tell us how to execute those. So what does time bound mean for the T in SMART? Well, who knows?
Yeah.
With MOVE, there are very simple forms. It's a simple structure that supports goal achievement, and it divides goal achievement into, preparing for goals.
Right. So it's really creating the system and the work. It's a workbook. You have to bring your full self to it, because you're going to look at your whole self. It's not going to be compartmentalized. You're actually going to have to identify some of like where all the challenges, and figuring out the balance, and the pressure points or the systems that you live within, and then moving, and how do we move through and create this step-by-step process, right? Like, it's really coming into, this is how we can actually get into the meat of it. I love it that it allows you to not drift, like, be intentional.
Right.
Be intentional.
Being intentional, and it's been as powerful for coaches. Here's just the cover of it, coaches, as it is for athletes, because it gives coaches a structure which has been used for 30 years now. And it's been used even by orthopedic surgeons to work with patients who've just emerged from surgery. And ordinarily they might just go to the physical therapist. Okay, that's fine. But if you just go to the physical therapist, you're a patient, you're not in control.
Yeah.
If you use MOVE with a MOVE coach, MOVE puts the user, whether it's the coach or the athlete, if an athlete is working with a coach, the athlete's in charge with the coach guiding them through the process. You decide, Tennille, what's your next goal? What's coming up?
Yeah, what I love about this is, one thing that we do within my team Element is that every quarter we look at, and we bring intention, we give ourselves space. So the point is, like, a lot of what I notice is that we don't give ourselves the space to actually, and the time, like, to actually go through it. Like, sit down, let's do the work. And so we do, 60 minutes to 90 minutes, and we go through, they've been given their work, the prompts ahead of time, and we go through our system to actually set that intention. What I'm really excited about is that we can bring in this other element of, like, what could I be missing in this process of and in the system of setting our goals, where we talk about process goals and outcome goals, and where is it that we might be able to up our game as coaches, as myself, and in supporting and to create the community and the connection to actually doing it, so we can really carve out this special time. And I do it by quarter, because we have our big annual goals that we go through, and then we keep check in, so we don't get complacent.
Yeah. And the other piece is that that's a great process. The importance, I guess, important word is celebrate.
Yeah, I was going to say.
So that we can say, wait a minute, because move is a process of the reiterative short-term goals that are based on the long-term goals, that are based on our vision and our values. And there's the reason that, move, we've not focused, it's on, we really do focus on the individual. And there's a reason for that. And that is that we do take our time off the court, off the field, off the track, to do this deliberate practice of, Tennille, what's coming up in the next 6 weeks, what else is going on in your life, what's going on this week, and then why does this goal have meaning for you? It's very important to understand the uniqueness of everyone, because we're all different.
Yeah.
And we want to, what I find is that conversations with my athletes, and I know my other coaches have found this too, there's a huge growth that happens within the hour session. Someone ends up in a different place than they might have been. It's that dialectic conversation where someone discovers what the meaning is, and the meaning makes a difference. The meaning can totally improve up the training. And there's a famous, no longer with us, but social historian called Bernice Neugarten. And she said that in life, there's an individual fanning out. So to think about your perimenopausal, menopausal, postmenopausal women, that 30-year-olds are more different from each other, right, than 15-year-olds. 50-year-olds are more different from each other than 30-year-olds. 70-year-olds more different still. Experience counts. And values counts. We evolve.
Yeah. Amen. Thank goodness we evolve.
Thank goodness.
If we did not, be in real trouble.
I just went to I won't say which reunion, but a high school reunion, and I'll tell you, I was thinking we evolve.
Yeah, and to celebrate that too. It's just like, Matt, and we can give ourselves permission to evolve, and like, it's to let go of the things that held us back, or that we didn't know and aren't proud of, or that we didn't quite get right, or whatever stories we have, and being like, you know what, I get to show up as I am, and now I'm going to move forward. And this is, oh my goodness, there it is, move forward again, right? Like, it's, and then how do I want to do that and bring intention around it? So I have a couple of specific questions. It was really interesting in the Facebook group. What we looked at is, we put out, what do you think is a priority for you in setting your goals? And we use the motivation, organization, visualization, and then other, and then we let everybody else, put whatever they thought. And it was very interesting to me. So the responses were 31% believed that we needed to have motivation, 29% organization, and only 8% on visualization. So I just thought that I wanted you to just touch on those, and just just help us understand what we may or may not be seeing in this.
So motivation. It's interesting. Their motivation, I agree, is very important, and it changes all the time. I've been struggling myself, and of course I have a coach, with what do I want next? Because as a competitive person, I've achieved what I want to do. And I right now want to support and nurture other coaches and grow Move and the workbook and so forth. That would be more my competitive edge. But I do work out a lot. I can no longer run, so I bike and I swim and I strength train. And I realized that my motivation has changed, thinking a lot about this with my coach, and that I'm going to enter some swim and aqua bike events, not because I want to win them, I don't care, but because my new sort of competitive training goal with myself is with myself. I want to train more in swimming than I ever have before. And I am. And that's really exciting. So, and motivation is critical, and that takes a lot of conversation. I've had people in sessions that usually towards the end, they'll say, you know what? I'll tell you. Something about they were swimming with their father in a lake. He encouraged one person, psychiatrist, great triathlete, and he encouraged her to swim when she was young. She was trying to get to why it was so important, and he died when she was 6. And she was remembering the moment, and that going through that memory helped her. It's deep. It really is deep. This is not therapy, but it's high performance reflection. And then on the organization piece, one of the key practices in Move is that, and included in the workbook, is we work with calendars and we look ahead at each week at everything going on in our lives. And then we reflect back what happened. We tweak, we revise. And that kind of organization helped several of my clients this week with yard work, right? Going to the yoga class they wanted to do. They just were more intentional and in control. And on the piece of visualization, I would say this, it reminds me of a very good friend of mine who's a tennis pro, and she had an assignment in college, sports psychology, to visualize herself and to play music, winning this great match. And she D1 player at the end of, and she was in the match and she lost 0-0. She said it didn't work.
Right.
But the mere process of talking with someone and saying, okay, I'm having a problem with my back, so I'm going to have a back campaign to fix it. Putting words on our experience and on our values and visions helps us visualize. So everything we do at Move, it's not cloudy. You may start with cloudy thoughts, but we try to clarify what are examples of what we want and put words down on our calendars that we're able to measure so that we know at the end of a 6-week goal, we've done it. We don't, as coaches, Move coaches, we don't have to try to convince someone of what they've achieved. In fact, I've never had anyone fail. I've had someone come to me and they said, oh, I came to you because I failed with my last coach. I said, you failed? And central also, and I should say this to Move is, well, there's an initial session and that you just do one session, so you're not committed to anything. And then if you want, you can do a 6-week session. But built into that is, so if someone doesn't like it, say, okay, no problem.
It's not,
have to convince us.
We don't need to be convinced.
Right. But is setting range goals is really important liberation, because people are actually scared of goals. They set them too high. They set them too precisely. It's like one tiny center of a bullseye. If you set range goals and you set them in small increments, and I don't know if you're probably familiar with James Clear's book, which is excellent, called Atomic Habits. He talks about that. So that's my point about planning and writing down words and stating, not writing them down and expressing them helps us visualize and achieve in important ways.
Super interesting and super, I think that it's interesting about the visualization. I know that you've said, and just to tie it into something else you mentioned, is like, we want to know, and it's like, I have a element race team, a cycling team, and we're very much, some of us are bringing and stepping it up a level, and a lot of us are recreational and very much recreational. But when you go to a bike start line, like at the local crit or a road race, it's like there's not very many females, and I would say the percentage of us are like the only females that are on the start line are usually the team. And so yay for us, because we've come together and create it. But the idea is like represent what's possible, and it's sometimes until we start seeing it, and even seeing ourselves in it, is when it can start going, oh, I believe in it, and establishing that belief within that whole idea. And then that is motivating in itself to do the work, to get into the logistics of it. So
Absolutely.
it kind of like comes up underneath too.
And to support your point, there's a great psychologist called Albert Bandura. He retired from Stanford, but he talks about self-efficacy, which is a specific kind of, I teach this at Boston College, of self-confidence. And there are 4 sources of self-efficacy, one of which is vicarious experience. Being able to see others with whom we can identify, we can visualize them, and that encourages us, motivates us.
Oh, so interesting. Because
And the other sources being, mastery, verbal persuasion, which is, oh yeah, Tennille, you can do it. You can have a great team, great coaching community, all that. And then the 4th is physiological states. That is interpreting sweating, and a high heart rate, not as anxiety, but as excitement.
Oh, I love that. Yeah. Brené Brown talks a lot about that difference between, and we've gone through it in Team Element too, understanding like, are you feeling anxious? Or are you feeling excited? And how do we understand those differences? And I love it that you've just brought that in. The other thing is, another athlete had put into some of the comments in preparation for this interview, was looking at that interconnection to self-confidence and self-esteem. And she was she knew that there was something there, but she couldn't quite pinpoint to why that was important to her, to bring those 2 pieces into what is it? How does that underlie our ability to create strong goals, or what does that look like? I don't know if you have any comments on that.
I'm not sure exactly what you mean, truth, but I can say that related to setting goals, people who set goals are instantly, I think it raises their self-esteem and self-confidence. In fact, research has shown that as soon as someone even verbalizes a goal, the level of oxytocin, that feel-good endorphin chemical in our brains, increases.
Yeah.
And sometimes, just as with me, it took me a long time to say, okay, I will do this swim event, not as a competitor, but as a motivation for me to swim more than I ever have in my life, which is what I'm doing. So it raises self-esteem and self-confidence. And I would bet, but I have no data to support this, that on the converse side, on the other side, people who are afraid of setting goals have less confidence. And they're also probably too hard on themselves. One of the things we emphasize all the time is that the small goals matter. All of my students, hundreds of my students, they all set goals in the classes, and they all begin by overshooting.
And it's interesting that when so another keyword, so just to wrap it up and to bring it into, the wholeness of thinking about, let's go after and set goals. Like, let's go and develop and have this system. We have this. So just so people know, the way to get the move workbook is and I'll put this in all the links, and I'll put this so you guys don't have to worry about it, is movegoals@gmail.com. It is by mail. It's approximately $40 US. There, it does have to go through the mail. So for the Canadians that are on, yes, you will also get it, but there is, there's a cost there in addition. And it gives you the system. So if you want to come out, if you want to move forward, $40, like, that's nothing for incredibly researched decades of work that are coming in the heart and soul here. And so for those coaches that want to up their game as well, I highly encourage you to shoot an email, spend the $40. That's me selling. I just want everybody to really feel like they can do it, because I think that this is the point of this workbook, is that you can do it. Is that we all can do this, and we can find our confidence by doing this in a process that we can, see the whole person and really come into it. So, is there something that, before we leave off today, is there something that that you really wanted to get through? In short, because you also are going to be in our summit. So everybody that's listening to this, there is a summit and preparation for a summit underway. Yes, it does take a lot of time and work to bring this tons of genius together. And we will be diving in even deeper with Dr. Utzschneider again, which is, I'm just so excited, because I could go off on so many tangents right now. I have so many more questions, but I'm going to save it for the next interview as well. So anything else that you wanted just to really point to that you wanted people to know about?
I would say just two things. One is like a little dollar comment. If people pay $45, that would be fine, and that can be covered by the mailing. So to keep it simple, if they wonder. But on a more substantive note, the reason that we decided to make the Move Goal Achievement Workbook, to create it, is that we wanted people to be coaches and athletes to be able to use it if they want with a friend. I've had many people order it with friends, many coaches order it, and not have to go through the coaching. If people are interested in the certification, coaching certification, fine, or in the coaching, fine. But this is a way that they can learn the method just with the workbook. And
Yeah.
I owe so many thanks to everyone in our Move community.
Yeah.
To all the athletes, the coaches, they're people of all ages, and what people say about the Move community, while very accomplished, they're very vulnerable at the same time. And they're not afraid they don't think win, they think warm and support. They think heart. We emphasize at Move the heart, both from a physiological perspective and also from an emotional one.
Yeah.
It's the most important thing.
Yeah. One question that just come from Tanya is, thank you so much for your incredible information. Do you find there's any notable differences between men and women in midlife when it comes to coaching?
There are many differences between men and women when it comes to coaching. One of them is their physiologies are so very different. So the kinds of training women should do, say, perimenopause and beyond. I mean, men are not, they don't have the same hormones, obviously. Mm-hmm. So it's a very different kind of training. I've been surprised because we're a co-ed community. We have many men. We have people who've been a quarterback in the NFL strength coach. We have one of France's top runners hoping to make the Olympics. We have a 78-year-old who has won her division in the Boston Marathon. She can no longer run. We have golfers, a Hall of Fame golfers, all different sports. And I think the point is that we're all together in trying to figure out how we can help each other and how we can move forward. I've been amazed how many 28 to 35-year-old men have come to move. And we used to be mainly a women's community, no longer. We're definitely co-ed. Everybody, I would say at the base, every person is a beautiful individual.
Yeah. I think it's interesting because it's sometimes like the differences between, you know, two women or two females and a female and a male, like they can be as great in those differences as, you know, so how do we notice the differences, or how do we pull them and understand them? It's really interesting. Emily, also thanks you for your time. So I can say that my athletes that are listening to this, I will be ordering the Move workbook, and I will be bringing this into our next intentions call. So you might want to order it as well, but I will be also bringing that information in, because it's just, you know, why wouldn't we use this incredible resource? So my athletes will be benefiting from it most certainly. Great. Okay. So if there's no more questions coming from you guys, thank you for joining us. And I think that's a wrap on our first little taste of what we get to look into. So thank you again for being here with us.
Neil, thank you. And thank you, everybody.